First thing you want to do when you're gonna smoke something like this is you want to take it out of the vacuum pack. Flip it around. After you add a little bit of seasoning on it, you want to cover it with some mustard. Don't worry, it's not going to taste like mustard. Alright, so you just cover the pork butt with some mustard. A nice little generous mustard. You want to rub it on there. Alright, so you got your little base of mustard on there. And you just give another light little seasoning over on top. So at this point, you've taken it out of the package, you've seasoned it, you've put mustard around it, and you've seasoned it a little bit more. The next step is to let it sit. All right, I like to leave it in this little container that I have here and just kind of cover it. So the Boston butt has been marinating for a couple of hours now. What I did is I took it out of the marinating dish that I had it in and I put it on the rack. Okay, so I wanted to give you a little bit of a step-by-step of what's going on here. This is a setup. This is a Masterbuilt 40-inch electric smoker. A couple of things you need to be aware of when you're gonna smoke with one of these is first of all, you have a tray. This tray down here, make sure that when you do it, it has to be right at the edge, because if it's too far in, all the drippings coming from here are gonna come out through here. So you need to bring it in close to the edge. That's one. Make sure that your chip catcher or where the chips are gonna be burning is nice and clean for the first time. You have a water pan here as well. This water pan, I like to give it some water and a little bit of apple cider vinegar, just to give it a little bit of that taste. So that's a setup right there. Now back to the pork here. We have a piece of meat that we're going to be smoking for a couple of hours. I'm going to end up putting a couple of beef briskets on top of this, because that's one of the cool things about this thing, is that you can actually cook more than one type of meat at once. But for this one, for now, what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and insert the temperature probe, or the meat probe that comes along with it. So as you can see, the meat probe has been put in. I tried my best not to hit the bone that's in there. I have a couple of other things I wanted to cover. I bought this spray where I put apple cider vinegar in, and I'm going to be using this periodically throughout the smoke to spray on the meat, just to give it a little bit of a bark to it, a tougher bark. I also, just to make sure that you guys get the right type of wood chips to go in there. The way this works is you just don't fill it all the way to the top. Just go ahead and put it in there, turn, and you hear it drop. So that should be ready to go. Alright, so you have your pork butt, you have your apple cider vinegar with water, you have your chips down there, you have your pan ready to go. There's also a drip tray back here you got to make sure you have. Alright, so what we're going to do next, we're going to start the smoke. We're just going to close it, secure it, and we're going to turn this puppy on. Alright, so the first thing you want to do is you want to set your temp. And for this one, I want to go low and slow, so we're going to go 220. Set temp. Then it's going to ask you for the time. To me, this one doesn't really matter because I'm going to be keeping time on my own. I'll just leave it at 20 hours. Set time. So as you can see, it's been less than 20 minutes and my smoker's already starting to smoke. That's a good sign. Just keep an eye on it the first 4 hours. Keep adding chips every 30 to 45 minutes. Don't over add chips, because then it won't smoke the way it should. After about 4 hours, you can pretty much leave it as is until you're ready to pull it out. After the 4 hours, you can also start spraying it down if you want, so you can keep some of that moisture in and start creating that really nice dark bark. What I'm gonna do right now is I noticed on this model the ashes start to pile up, so you won't get as good of a smoke as you should. So there's a couple of things I want to do at this point. First things first is I want to open this up, release some of that smoke that's kind of trapped in there. Alright, and then what I'm gonna do next is I'm actually gonna pull this thing out, and I'm gonna dump the ash so that I can put new chips in there, and it'll work out. Now, since I have it open and I already opened it up, what I'm gonna do right now is I'm gonna spray some of this apple cider vinegar on all of around the bark, just to keep it moist. Alright, I'm gonna close it back up. Alright, so another thing that I did end up doing here is I actually ended up raising the temperature to 235, and I'll do that for the first 4 hours, and the only reason I'm doing that is so that I can try to get as much smoke out of the first couple of hours, in the first 3 to 4 hours, because after that the meat will seal itself and it won't really let any of the smoke flavor go in anymore. So the more smoke you have, when it's still able to capture it, the better. So I raised it to about 235. I'm gonna end up bringing it down after about the 4 hour mark and just let it cook after that. Alright, so this pulled pork has been cooking for a while now. It's been cooking over 12-15 hours. The internal temperature is about 185, 190 is what you want for pulled pork. The next step to do here is to actually wrap it. Okay, so you just want to get it off of the... You gotta let the meat rest so that it can be tender and juicy, and it's just gonna fall off the bone. Okay, so a couple of wraps here. You want to overlap the wraps so that none of the juices fall, nice and tight. Alright, so what this will do is this will eventually bring some of the juices back in there, tender it even a little bit more. Alright, so the next step from here is you actually have to put it inside a cooler. Now I have a bigger cooler right now here because I actually made some brisket. But if you have a smaller cooler and this is all you're doing, that's perfectly fine. All you need to do now is just let it sit for about 2 hours, and then you literally just pull it apart. Alright, so the pulled pork has been resting for a couple of hours now. It's in here. We're going to pull it out. And literally pull it. So you have your foil, you unwrap it. Now this thing's going to have a bone right in the middle. If done correctly, cross your fingers, it should pretty much pop out. The bone right here. See that bone? So I mean literally it just comes out. Now the next step is to pull the pork. So you just, I have this deal here, just throw it in here. 2 forks, there's other things that you can use, but a couple of forks will do fine. You just pull the pork away from each other. And there you go, you have pulled pork. Alright, so here we are, finishing pulling the pork. And just so you know, I do have an audience. You want to pan to the audience, camera woman? And hopefully they'll like or dislike me in my comments. They'll let you know how good it was. Alright, see you guys.